welcome to my session about basically Azure policies and rollback access in Azure. My name is Cecilia, and I work at this company called Access Solution that now are part of a company called Evidi. We operate in the Nordics mostly, but our customer is based Nordics, Europe. My part of the company and me is working a lot with developing applications for customers. I myself do a lot of DevOps work, AI solutions, together with a lot of Azure infrastructure, security and stuff like that. And I do love to take a complex topic and turn it into a simple explanation. And so this is security, complex topic, and I'm trying to do it in a simple way, so it will be easy and understandable and focusing from a developer point of view on stuff. And when thinking about accessing things in Azure, I like to compare Azure or your subscription to a mansion or a castle or something. So this is actually the Swedish castle where I live, where the queen and king is living. So they have a lot of rooms, they have a lot of wings, they have a lot of different buildings. So, and when they are hiring contractors or something, they don't basically hand out the master key to everything, right? They don't want to do that. If you do that, you're gonna lose control really fast and don't know who has access and who has keys, who has turned them in, etc. It's gonna be a mess. So, and the same thing goes for Azure. You don't hand out like your ownership role for every single people that are gonna do something. They're gonna have too much of an access. They're not supposed to access like the vault or like the wine cellar or something just to paint a bedroom. So you need to think about in those terms in Azure too, that just give what they need. And preferably on timed, limited on time as well. They need to hand in the key again, kind of thought. So with that in mind, we have a couple of principles that can be good to have in mind. You may have heard them before, but it's really good ones. So the first one is called zero trust. So this is but that we don't just trust someone that they have access just being there. So for you guys, for example, I shouldn't trust you that you are supposed to be here because you don't have a badge on you. But it's easy to it's easy to think that you are eligible to be here because you're here. So apparently you possibly have bought a ticket to this one. But that's kind of what's zero trust is. You need to like verify that you is you and you are supposed to be there. So in like the IT world, can be things like once you are on the corporate network, you can access everything. That's kind of an old silo doing things. And you shouldn't assume things like that. Or when you're on a specific device, then it's okay or something. You need to tell the system who you are so they can look up if you're really supposed to be there. The next one is least privilege. So this is kind of giving the key to castle, not giving the owner key. Give the key to the bedroom and the doors leading up to that, and nothing else. So the default should be like no access, and I give you access to exactly what you need, nothing else. That's least privilege. The next one is just in time. So we don't hand out the key and then they can have it forever. They need to hand it in sometimes. It's a deadline or something. So in our world, it is about having access to a resource during 8 hours, 2 weeks, etc. So we remove the access basically when it's done. So these are really good design principles. We can use them when we design systems, when we design our infrastructure, and when we work with Azure. And this helps us protect ourselves as a company if like your credential got lost or you get hacked, malware, whatever. So they use your profile to do anything. If you're not the fault owner in production, that's really good. It may not be your fault, or you did click some email or something, and then they will have access maybe to production through you. But if there is a process of approving or applying for access to it and it's short-lived, the window for when you're vulnerable is smaller. So that's this kind of what we want. And also, like accidentally thing. If I have ownership for all the subscription and I'm supposed to kind of remove something manually directly in Portal, and now maybe the naming of the resource is kind of the same between environments, I could accidentally remove resource in production, and I don't really want to do that. So it also protects myself from doing stupid things to do. Click. So we have a couple of different pieces we're going through. They are free. So the first one is about role-based access control, and it's about who is allowed to do what and where. The other part is called privileged identity management, and that is like the just-in-time thing, like when and how long are you supposed to do it. And then we're also going to look at Azure policies, and that is what are you allowed to do with the resource. Like you are allowed to do things, but exactly what are you allowed to do? You are allowed to create resources, but how are they allowed to be configured when you do that? That's policy. So those are the different parts. So we will start with role-based access control, usually called RBAC. You may have heard that term. I'm going to use that term because it's easier than saying role-based access control every single time. As I said, this is about who can do what and where. So we have 3 pieces in the puzzle here. So who is called the principal. So this is a user or a group of users or an app or something. It's an identity on it. We have a role, and a role is a definition on what you're allowed to do. You are allowed to create stuff, you are allowed to read stuff, you are allowed to write certain things, general or a specific resource type. And the last is what scope do this apply to? Is it overall the whole subscription or a specific resource group, etc.? So these 3 parts is part of role RBAC. So let's start looking into the principle, the identity. So this is basically Entra IDs entities. So we have users and groups. We can assign a lot of different roles directly on a user, but try to find a way to work with groups because that's simpler. Probably if one developer wants to have one certain access, and other developer in the same team will have the same access. And usually, sometimes you have those AD groups set up for developers in general or developers in the specific team or something. So you may have that grouping already set up. So assign the rules to those groups makes it easier when people join or leave because just adding them to the AD group gonna give them all of the things that you set up for that group. So that makes it more simple. And if you don't have a group, try to set it up. If you like, oh, I need to, this like a database guy here to need like doing this and this. And like, okay, we create a group for data access or Excel, SQL access or something. Maybe he's the only one right now, but then we can add in more or remove people from that group while we do. The other part could be like systems or application or something. Managed identities is an identity of a resource in Azure. So we say like this app service is the identity and you can apply rules on that one. Service principal is kind of the same thing, but it's not tied directly to a specific resource. You can use it for any resource, and you can also use it for other stuff like Azure DevOps build or etc. So the identity of something is the principle. The second part was a role. So this is a list of things you can do, and there's a lot of different roles, and you can create your own. So it's basically a list of permissions. And a couple of them, some examples, are owner. This is the one that we as a developer kind of like to have because we don't have to like nag about getting more roles on it. But it also gives you the possibility to remove stuff, add stuff, like everything except applying roles. You have here. There's a higher role for that. We have contributor. That's a really good general role for people that want to create resources and manage resources in Azure. This will be able to create stuff, configure stuff, removing stuff, but in a more controlled way than owner that have more access. Reader, as you hear, this is someone that just can see the resources, look at the properties, but can't really change anything. And then we have more specific, so those are kind of general. So if you apply it to a resource, it's going to be the reader resource there, or the resource group, you're going to read on the resource. But then we have more specific roles that have to do with a certain type of resource. Example, virtual machine contributor. This is a role that makes you be able to work with virtual machine resources. You can create them, change them, delete them, sort of that type. We have another example called storage blob data reader, also a very specific role. You can read data blobs. And you can also create your own. If you want to apply least privilege, you want to have specific roles for stuff. And if it's feasible, you want to have, you maybe have like 4 or 5 different reader contributors, etc. And you have to manage 5 assignments. But you can also create your own role. So this is just a list of permissions. So you can extract all the permissions and create your own role. So you can have a role for DevOps or the data team or the developers, etc. So if you don't want to have like contributor or reader, you can create your own modifier. You can start with the reader but add more or something. So it's really flexible and possible to extend and work with. We will see this in action very soon. And the third part is the scope, like where did this apply? So we can apply it directly on the resource and say this resource for this person have this role. But that will be micromanagement, I would say. It could be nice to do it like temporarily or something. In the long run, it's really hard to like every single resource apply this kind of thing. So a better way is to use the resource group and make sure you have good grouping of resource group, because the rules is rippling down. So if you have the resource group, if you have a role on that one, the role is rippling down on the resource inside of the resource group. And the same is, you can also apply it on a subscription level. Then it's rippled down to the resource group and the resources in the resource group. So everything under the resource. So if you apply reader on the subscription, you can see everything inside of the subscription. And you also have another level called management group. This is a container for subscription and or other management group. So you can group your subscription. So if you have several subscriptions and want to handle them similarly with things like RBAC, you can group them with management groups. And you can have, I think it's 7 layers of them. So if you have a really complex structure with a lot of different dev subscription and QA and like testing and like production, etc., spread out. You can have a good structure with management group for that. Yes. So all these three pieces is called a role assignment. So we have the principal, who is it? Is it a person, a group, an app? We have the role, the list of what you can do, and then you set it on a scope, on a resource group or a subscription or even a resource. So that's called a role assignment. Yes. Let's look at this in the portal. So let's see. I do here on the pink page. I tried to do it dark mode, but it was really hard to read. So you have to remember, pink is the owner of the subscription. So I'm owner here. I'm the only role that I've given is owner to myself, or I got it when I created the subscription, basically. I have invited a user called Maria. That's also me, but another me. So Maria is not the admin owner of the subscription. But I haven't given any role because the only role I had was owner of me. So Maria is able to log in to the subscription. So if we switch over to Maria, that is plain gray browser, this is what she will see. Like, hey, you don't have a subscription here. You can log in, but you don't really have anything here. So the first thing that I, as a owner, need to do is to assign something to Maria so she can see something. I can specify a specific resource or a resource group or access subscription or whatever. But I want to make her be able to see the whole subscription as a first step. So I'm going to give her reader access. So under subscription, access control, add role assignment. And then I'm going to search, because the list is long, reader here. And then I do next. I select members, or in this case, the principal, the identity, etc. So this is a user, since I don't have groups here. So I'm going to select member. Usually I need to search, but I only have 2 people here, so select Maria. And I'm gonna skip. We're gonna go back to this one when we're talking about privileged identity management. So we're skipping that, and then we assign. And this can take a little bit before it's applied. So we will look at more into the roles while you wait for it to be rolled out. So if we are looking at, let's see, we can look at the reader. We can view the details of it here. So in a role, we have permissions, and the permissions are 2 different types. We have action. We have actions and data actions. So action is what you can do on a resource. You can, like, the properties on it. And the data action is kind of inside of it. So if you have a data storage for some kind, it's the data inside of it. So for some resources, you only have actions, but on some, you have data actions. So like access inside of a key vault or a blob storage, or etc. Then you have data action. So reader have a lot of actions, 8,800 permissions, and we can see here grouped by type. It's a lot of them, only showing 500. So as I said, reader is a kind of generic read all where it applies. So we'll have a lot of, so we can search for data something, or let's say blob. So we will see that it has, yeah, so Microsoft SQL resource. You can read a couple of things, storage, you can list the blob service, and list the blob containers, for example, etc. But it's just outside of it. If you look at the data action, we have no access inside of. So a reader is not, you can read the data inside, you can just read the metadata on it and properties. And, kind of flickering with the sound. It's annoying. So if we back up and we look for, let's see, we can look at contributor. And contributor is a privileged role. So this is a role that you should be careful with to just hand out. There's a couple of them, 11. But you can use it, of course. So contributor, we will have a lot of actions, no data actions, and if we to look at blob there as well, you see, SQL web storage. Yeah, so it can delete the blob container, get the blob list, but so it has more than the reader didn't have delete, for example. But we can also look at a more specific role as something for a blob data reader. The name is just, the name is just a string, but they do use the name of reader, contributor, stuff like that. So when you will learn when you work with roles, kind of what naming they have. So this is a role called storage blob data reader. So this is supposed to be giving the user access to read inside of the blob, like the data. So let's look at that. It have 3 permissions on actions. You can get the blob container, list the blob containers. That's really useful when you go inside the blob to actually see what blobs you have. And then on the data actions, you can read the blob. So data action is inside. So, and you see this is more specific, so you don't really have to have that much of actions. There is really a JSON file, JSON specific behind this. So this is how it looks like. So if you are creating your own role, this is what you are going to copying, editing, and use when you create a role. So now let's see. I blob for a while. So let's see if we have gotten access to anything. So we can still have, let's see, filtered. Yeah, so here we are. So now I'm Maria. Maria can see the Azure subscription. I can look inside of it and see, hopefully, the resource groups that I created. No, not really. Oh, what's happening now? I just click a button without reading. That's really good. So let's see. Here, resource group. Yeah, resource group 1, 2, and 3. That's what I have in this subscription. So that's good. So now let's try to do a task. So Maria is supposed to add a tag to this resource group. We only have a tag here. That was dumb. Let's see. Just remove that fast. This. Bad preparation. Edit. So now I'm the master removing it. So it's supposed to look like this. So back to Maria. And then do a refresh. So this is how it's supposed to be. We don't have any tag here. But Maria is tasked with tagging the resource group to the teams that are using it. So we'll try to do that. We have resource group 1 here. So add a tag. and the tag name should be team, and we say this is the data team's resource group. So, and we press save, wait for a little while, and then we get a failure because this account doesn't have authority to perform actions Microsoft resource tag right over this specific scope, that is the resource group. So we need to make sure that Maria have this access. So now we're going back to the owner. And here's the owner. And I'm gonna put the access role directly on this resource group for this demo. So I'm going to access control again. Here, and here we can see that we do have 2 roles soon, yeah. Yeah. Check. Okay. So this was what I was showing. So under role assignment, you can see every role assigned to this resource, and if it's inherit or if it's just there specific for that resource. So this is the owner, me. In this one, I'm owner and by inheritance, and Maria is reader by inheritance. So she can't do anything. So let's add a role assignment. So now I can try to figure out like what kind of role could this be. It could be something like a tag writer or a tag contributor, probably on the naming. But I can also search by permission here. So I can take that error code we had and see that, hey, we had 2 different roles that we can use. Something with red hat, blah, blah, blah. Probably not what I want. It doesn't sound like a generic, like a resource group role. I can view it and see what this actually does to figure it out. But tag contributor, that seems to be the one I want. We have actions here, a lot of read stuff. Let's see, do you have anything with tag? Yes, I can read tag, write tag, delete tags. There's no data actions in that contributor. Like a tag doesn't have anything in it. It's just a string. So that will be a good one. So select that one. Add Maria again. Reassign. So she should be editable now. So we go back, and I need to prove, hopefully, that it works. Team, and then data, and save. It doesn't. This could be just wait a little bit of a thing. It usually gets well again. Team, data. Save. It failed. So I can show you a little bit later that it actually worked. But if I went to RGA2 resource group, it will not work because it's just in this scope. Can you check? So check my access. No, check. Okay, so here's my. Oh, right, I did it wrong. I used the privilege thing. I was not supposed to do that right now. Let's see. So can I change that? No, I can't. Damn it. So let's redo that one more time. Role assignment. I'm going to talk about that part when we come to the last part. No, I was supposed to. That one, there, Maria, select, next. Here, I'm going to do it active, permanent. That's the one I wanted to do. So now we'll see. Now it should work. So back to Maria. Add a tag. Team. Data. Save. Yes, now it works. So now she has the role of tag contributor on the resource group. Yes, that's for the demo. So that is how that is handled. Now to the next part. We don't want to give it permanently. We want to time limit it. And then we have this called Privileged Identity Management, or PIM. That is the word that we need to learn here. So this is, we do have people joining the team, leaving the team, there are projects starting, ending, like nothing is constant. We need to make people add, remove. We don't want to have full access in the production unless you need to and trying to figure out what's wrong or something. So this is a time for like, when are you supposed to do it and for how long? So, and it ties into the role assignment. But you need to have Enter ID P2 feature. So if you have P1 or something, this will not work. So, and you will see you're missing it in the dialogues I show you later on. So, but this could be a selling point to actually move to the Enter ID P2 level. But that's how it is. So we're going to look at it, and hopefully you can use it. I'm going to talk more first. So without PIM, the workflow is like, hey, I need owner privilege. Give me the owner role, and you give the owner role to the person, and probably the person is going to have it forever, more or less, until the account is disabled. But with PIM, you are giving the user the possibility to be owner, edgeable to be owner. So they get a role, but it's just edgeable. So it's not applied, as I accidentally did here. I didn't got the role for full. And then when I need a role as a user, I'm going to activate it. I'm going to justify why I need it. You could configure it so that someone needs to approve it before you got it, or it's auto doing it. When you activate it, you're going to tell for how long you want it, and after that time, it's going to be deactivated again, automatically. So that's the flow. Now back to the code. So back to here. So now back to the owner, because the owner is the one that sets this up. So say that Maria are a person that's handling things like cost and like distributing the cost for the Azure subscription to the right team or something. So she really needs to make sure that we have the right tags on like the team that we did before, on all the resource groups and resources, and making sure that we do have a role where she can look at the cost and make budgets or something. So, but we don't really want her to have like full access on the tag things all the time, just when she needs to. So we are going to do that. Let's see, we're going to do that on a subscription level because that makes most sense. There, and access control. Because right now, if we go back to Maria and we go to Argy 2, and we're trying to add the tag, team, this is kind of infra team, and then we are trying to add this fail. We don't have access to do that, so proof. So we're going to add role assignment, the same as we did before. So the tag contributor, we're going to select Maria or the group that Maria belongs to. And then we have the assignment type. If you don't have Entra ID P2, you will not have this possibility here. But if you do, you have it on the role assignment. So active is like the permanent version that we have. So if we don't want them to need to apply all the time. So if you have like a dev subscription or something where the developers should be allowed to do whatever they like whenever they like to, it could be a good way to give them either for the whole subscription or a specific resource group, the contributor role, for example. But edgeable, it's going to give you a time-bound thing. It also is time-bound in when you have the edgeable, like you're able to apply for this role. So I think the default time is 1 year, so this will be good. So it has nothing to do when you actually apply it. Let's use this, no. So next. Next. And then we go here. Now I'm on Maria. I'm going to look at Maria going to look at her own access control. Here, I'm going to see that I have one active. This is reader one. And hopefully the edgeable one as well. Yeah, so. And I have the edgeable one. So if I try to add a tag right now on this group, I will not be able to because I'm not tag contributor role. So I need to activate it. I can do it in a couple of different places, but right on the resource, I can go to this and use activate. You can also go to the PIM resource inside of Azure. So, and I'm going to say for how long, that's a configurable thing from the admin view, but the default on most role is from 0. I don't think you can put 0. Can you do it? Yeah, and half an hour to 8 hours. So if it's a full work day and I know we're going to be inside of doing this the whole day, 8 hours makes sense. If I want shorter, I just put what I want to have. And then you have to apply a reason. This reason is used to if you have the process of it needs to be approved by someone, they can read it. But if, like this, we have an auto accept, it's something that goes into the logs. So someone can look at like, hey, why did you activate like owner on production? We didn't have any errors here or something. Like you can like auditing. So need to add team tag. So activate. Timing. Takes a couple of time. So a short note on the thing where you can configure it to someone should approve first. That could be a really good way of handling it, especially for kind of production things. You can have a group or a person or something. But think about like if that person is not there, it shouldn't be one person, it should be a team. How should you handle it when, like, think of all the cases and make sure it actually works. And for like easy role, a tag contributor, do we really need someone to approve it? Like, use it carefully, I would say. It will be kind of annoying and may lock everybody out if it's bad. Yeah, so now it's... Yeah, so now it should be done. 2, 1, go. Like that. And we will see if we can apply a tag on this now. And with this, I can apply for every kind of resource groups, but I need to activate it first here. So, overview, essentials, add a tag, team. infra, där, save, and it works. But in 2 hours time, it will not work again. So that's PIM. On the other side of PIM, we have like the admin bit. Like I did assign a role with a PIM here, but I will have, if I do this, I probably will have more PIM roles, and I do want to manage them together, look at them, etc. So I go to, I search for PIM, I go to Privileged Identity Management, I go to Azure-Ressources, and I'm going to look at the subscription. I can go to a specific resource group or resource as well, but I'm going to look at that. There, manage resource. And on that, I can see all the assignments I have on it. I will only have one, but probably after a while, I'm going to have several of them. I can see which one are edgeable, what's active, and what's expired, like you're not edgeable anymore. So you need to kind of renew it for the person or something. We can also look at, from a role point of view, if we have a lot, we want to group them better, so we can look at reader. I got a lot of. There is the general reader. We have one there. We can go into a role. So here we can specify and see how the reader is set up. For that one, it's maximum 8 hours, and all of this can be changed from. So we can say that you can never apply to this role more than 2 hours at a time or something. We can set let's see, go here instead, edit the proofing. So you can force people to use their MFA again when they activate this role, just to prove them that they are they again. You can add that you require approval, and then you can add who's going to approve, a group or a person. You may want to have, let's see, there. You can say how long you could be edgeable. 1 year is the longest, but you can also say that you only hand out this role, edgeable role, for a month in a time or something. If you're allowing permanent active assignments or not on this role. And what kind of notification do you like to when people are like activating a role? Do you want to have like an email, or just send a notification or something? So you can have, if you have a role that's like, I really want to know when the owner is activated on production, you can kind of do that here. So we can also look at, let's see, it's called activity log, I think, or is it? No, my audits. Yeah, so here is where Maria has gotten the edgeable role requested and then completed. So the request is, if you have denied it because the person needs to approve it or something, it's going to be denied. But here you will see, no, is it on that one? Didn't I? There's a reason. Sorry, I didn't. It's on both. So here's the reason that Maria wrote in as the reason. So you can see that here, and you can see all of what's happening here for this. And you can also manage your different roles from this point of view. So here you can assign, so you don't have to go to the resource. You can go to the PIM and select a role and do all of that from here as well. Let's see, where's the point? Yes. Back to this. So now we have RBAC, who can do what and where. We have PIM, when and for how long. Now we are going to talk about Azure policy. This is a little bit different, but this is more about what are you in more detail allowed to do on the resources. And you can still be like owner on a subscription and trying to create something like a resource and be denied from a policy. So this is overwriting everything else and just will not allow you to do things. So an Azure policy is it's a lot of different policies, but a policy is kind of a rule around a property on a resource, I could say. So some examples can be allowed locations. So the region or location for a resource, you can say like, hey, every resource have to be located in Sweden Central, where I live, for example. You have that a policy at your subscription company, etc. You can set this a policy, and then it's going to help you to align to that rule, because that's kind of a property. It could be tags that we work with now. We can add that you require team tag on all resources. And unless you have set it, you won't be able to create your resource. Or you're going to get an alert that it was a resource was created, depending on how you configure it. You could put policies that say that we're not allowed to do public IP on this resource type, like you're not allowed to do public access to data storage, or your VMs are not allowed to do public IPs. There are things coming there as well in the Azure portal, but those kind of things. You can set SKU restrictions, so you don't allow to select the really high expensive tiers when you create your resource, but just the ones that you have allowed for this subscription or whatever. You can, like, the encryption box needs to be on the storage account, for example. You can require HTTPS only, like a lot of different, you can demand private endpoints. So think about like all the settings that you can do on a resource, and those can be defined as rules. Okay, like I was like, is it the fire alarm or something else? So the policy is kind of one property is allowed to set to one. You can group several together, but more or less it's one property. And we also add an effect. The highest effect is deny. With the deny on a policy rule says that you are not allowed to create a resource unless you obey the rule. It doesn't apply to something that you already have in the subscription, but it applies to the new stuff. The things that are already there, you will be able to see who breaks the rules, but it can't do anything about it. We have audit, and that's like the nice version. It's just going to scan all your resources, new and old, and have a report on who's breaking the rules. So if you have like a policy on location, for example, maybe everyone knows that you should create them in Sweden Central, but you can have a policy, so you can look it up and see if everybody's doing that. Or if you have a lot of resources, all the deny thing will come in as an audit as well, the things that are already there. And there is also one called append. So if we don't have it, add it, basically. And depending on what kind of property it is, you may need to use deploy if not exist. If it's kind of a resource, it may be something about logging or something, so it needs to create stuff, or it needs to modify. So there's a kind of, these three are, depending on what kind of property it is, it's kind of fix it option, you can say. So we can say that we modify to Sweden Central no matter what. So you create it, you select like Germany, whatever data center in, but when you're done, you're going to have Sweden Central anyway, so kind of forcing it. If we have multiple policy definition for the same thing, but with different effects, the highest one will always win. So if we have a deny, it's the deny that wins. So we can't really put an audit and think that it's going to overwrite on that specific resource, even though we have a deny on subscription level. But we can add an exception on the deny policy and say, don't include that resource group, because that is a lab testing resource group or something. So the effect end, as the same as RBAC, we need to apply it to something. So we have the same thing here with the management group, the subscription resource group, and resources. So the management group, and here, if we have more than 3 subscription, like one dev, QA, test, and production, so we have multiple dev, multiple QA, multiple products, or multiple team subscription, whatever, then we really want to look into management groups so we can apply the policies overall. So all the dev subscription have kind of the same policies, etc. So that could be really good to do. So we can add it on a management group, and it's going to ripple down to all of things under. We can apply it on subscription. It's going to ripple down resource group and on a specific resource if we want to. But probably resource group, subscription management group going to be the one that you apply to. And this is kind of usually subscription level because you look at it in the whole picture kind of thing. Yeah. So let's go back to, let's see, it's time. So policy. Here, I'm going to Azure Policy. There it is. So, let's see. So right now I have one policy in place, and that is because of demo, because a policy takes a couple of minutes, half an hour, worst case, to ripple down and report back and so on, depending on how big your subscription is. So it will not be instant on exactly what's going on. I do think the rule will apply right away, but scanning and auditing all the things will take a time, even though we 3 resource groups only. So I do have a policy that is not compliant. That means that I have a rule that not everybody's following. And I do have 2 resources out of 3 that are compliant, so I have 1 resource that breaks the rule. And let's see what I'm doing. So we do have, let's see, definitions. So there's a lot of definitions here. I don't even know if we have a count on them, but let's see. I want to do, we can look at tag actually. Let's see, tag, no. So we can search for it and try to figure out what they named it. There's a couple of categories. So if you know you want a policy for tag, for example, we can filter for tag. So it's kind of easier. So you need to figure out. So we have, for example, require tag on resource group. I do want to have that one. And we see the definitions here, and it's basically the type resource group where tag is the parameter list that I'm going to provide. So you see this JSON. You can design your own policies as well. You can make sure to assign this here to some scope, subscription, or resource group, management group. I don't have them here. So you can add exclusion if you don't want it to apply to a specific resource group, for example. And we also gonna tell like the action, is this enforced or just auditing parameters, damn it, here. So for here I can say like exactly what that I need a team tag. Depending on the policy, I'm gonna have different parameters here, and so on. So we can go and look at the assignment that I do have. So I have one called allow location for resource group. And I do have a list of saying that it's Sweden Central, nothing else. So that is what actually is broken here, because we have resource group 3 is Italy North, so that is not compliant. And let's see if I can create another Italy. Yeah, so even here I am actually born and stop, but if I think I can actually go away and try to create it anyway. Oh, they blocked it. But sometimes you can create it and you don't get a warning, but it will fail anyway because you're not, like I have like the deny setting on this one. So there are a lot of things around policies. So if you are trying to be compliant with a public standard like ISO standard, etc., we do have those kind of policies. Let's see. And when there's a group of policy, it's called an initiative. So initiatives is a group of policies. So here you have a couple of known public one. Let's do ISO, for example. So yeah, this one, maybe recognize some of them. So they are a group of a couple of policies. This is 58. All of them is usually audit in the first place, because when you apply this, it's going to be like a lot of stuff to go through. And then you can switch it from audit to deny once you have cleaned up and making sure that we have everything in place and it actually works and so on. So this is a great tool to help you following like public policies, standards, or internal policies that we say like, hey, we don't really follow a policy, but we kind of align to this public policy. Or we gonna do this and this rule. No public access, always private endpoint, etc. And you can set it up as your own initiative or just policies added one-on-one. Yes. We are done there. So that's that. Our back control, who can do what and when. PIM controls when, and we need to have enter ID P2 tier. And the policy control more in detail what you're allowed to do on a broader scope, not a specific person. So the question is what to do now. You've hopefully learned something new. And I do have a couple of suggestions just to kind of call to actions. So the first thing, do you have permanent owner in production? Shouldn't have. So if you do have it, if it's a long list, try to reduce it as much as you can. Maybe you have given out ownership to people left and right and you can remove them because it's not needed. If it's empty, protect it like that. If you're able to use PIM, use it for the privilege role as owner, as contributor, and those kind of thing, where you can add the timing, and you can do it on a role assignment that's already been done. You can editing it for that. And or if you don't have any policies in place, come up with some rule that you do have for something and add it as a policy. And if you do have policies in place, they may be all audit. Try to find those that you actually can enforce to a deny. So you get one step further in this journey. So that's just a couple of suggestions, but more or less, like, go to yourself. Like, if you're auditing your subscription, what will you find around this area? And think about, like, what would be the next action to take when you come back on Friday or Monday to change and make it more secure. So go and secure your environments, and thank you for your session. I think we do have like 1 minute for questions, if there are any. Yep.
What is a privileged role? Is that something that Azure defines, or is that something that I define?
A privileged role, what is it? It's something Azure have defined. They are the role that have a lot of what you're allowed to do that are not read-only, I would say. So they have defined that these roles are privileged. They are under a different tab in the UI. So if you're searching for owner and are on the default first tab, you will not find it. So they hide it a little bit. So it's just a definement from them. So you can create your own role that are really high privilege, but that will not like be on that one by automatically. Yeah, thank you. And you're allowed to talk to me afterward, of course, or you online can be in the chat if you have any questions. So, and I think it's time to go and get some more coffee, right?